Hello, we are joined today by Rhymestyle, who has a pretty epic channel. So for those in the audience who may not have heard of you before, can you give us the soundbite on what you do and what your channels are about?
I yell a lot and play a lot of Dragon Ball games. I also have a Pokemon channel where I open cards and Yu-Gi-Oh as well, but I'm mostly known for the Dragon Ball content.
Right. And so we first decided to get in touch with you because of your Pokemon channel. You've done, if I understand correctly, basically a mix of openings and grading returns and talking about your collection and your
hmm
collecting. So can you tell us how you got into Pokemon in the first place?
Originally or when I came back?
Both. Two
Okay.
stories. Yeah.
So when I first came to the States back in the late 90s, because I grew up in Bosnia, when I moved over here, I noticed all the kids were into Pokemon. And I remember I was that one that was like, nah, I'm not going to get into that. I never liked being the person that like kind of follow the trends, even as a kid, which is what you normally do. But I'll never forget. It was like, I think it was like in third grade. This kid in my class had both red and blue. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to convince you. Take my red, play it, bring it back tomorrow. I guarantee you're going to be into Pokemon. Now, I did the taboo they should never do. And since he had two copies of the game, I didn't really think much of it at the time. But I took his red and I started a new file. I erased his data, not realizing that you can only keep one data per game. And when I came back to class the next day, he was like, you know what, just keep it. I have two copies of the game. I have blue and red. You can have it. And I was like, all right. So from there, I just kind of started playing, and that's when I fell into the vortex that was Pokemon at the time. I started getting the cards. My parents are foreign, so they didn't really understand trading cards, and they were always kind of against it. But they're like, yeah, whatever. We'll get you a pack or two every now and then because you like it, yada yada yada. But I think what really drew me in is the desire to want a Charizard. Because everybody wanted one, and like almost nobody had it. And the ones, like the 2 or 3 kids that had Charizard were like the kids. They were the cool ones of the school. So I guess it was just, I fell into just the desire of wanting to collect as much rare Pokemon at the time. But then, of course,
Yeah,
as I got
I actually
older,
had a similar story. Just so you know, my family moved from Israel to the U.S. when I was, I
Mhm.
think it was like 7 or 8 years old, or maybe probably 9. And I remember having a similar experience. So
Yeah.
like Pokemon just passed me by in Israel, but everyone was into it when I got here. And I
Yep.
remember being so out of the loop. And then I had a friend who gave me one card. He gave me a Charmander, and I thought it was so cool. I was like, wow,
That's what it was for me. He gave me a Charmander too.
no way. We have the Charmander bond.
Yep.
Yeah. So sorry. Continue.
I was gonna say, as you get older, you just kind of forget about it. You move on. I went into Yu-Gi-Oh, but what made me come back to Pokemon recently in 2016, I remember, I think I got a video recommended in my feed on YouTube of just card openings, and I'm like, man, those were the days, man. And this is like right when X-Y Evolutions came out, and I found out they basically reprinted base sets. I'm like, I need to look into this, and I looked on YouTube. I found Leonhardt, and I saw he was doing a bunch of X-Y Evolution openings. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get a couple packs just to kind of, get that feel that I used to have when I was a kid. And I remember I got a box and I pulled the X-Y Evolution Charizard, like the reprint. I never pulled it as a kid. And once I like got that feeling of pulling that Charizard and that moment that I never had as a kid, I'm like, oh, I need more of this. So I started a journey to collect as many Mewtwo's as possible because my favorite two Pokemon are Mewtwo and Charizard and Lugia. And at the time, I wanted a Charizard, but I thought they were pretty expensive. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to spend, more than $10 a card. So I went for the next best thing, Mewtwo's. I ended up collecting all the ones that I wanted. And then I slowly started moving to Charizard. And next thing I know, a couple years later, I'm super back into the vortex. And I'm just like falling through it and loving it.
Yeah, I actually had a similar experience. I got back into it trying to sell my old childhood collection. So I visited my parents. It's like, oh, it's just sitting around here. I should sell it. I did end up selling it, but through the process of selling it, I got back into it. And within like 2 days of selling it, I was like, I wish I had sold that because I just spent more than that much money buying new cards.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that your family moved from Bosnia. And I remember like when I was growing up in the 90s, there was a war there.
Yep.
Is that part of the reason?
Yep. So the war happened. We moved to Germany. We lived there for 6 years. And then once, I guess, the time was up, it was either you can get to move back or you can figure out what else you guys want to do with your life. And my parents, they got us over here instead.
Oh, wow.
And then I grew up in the Midwest when I was out here.
And so now I know your main channel is doing Dragon Ball stuff. Have you become a full-time YouTuber?
Yeah, I've been full-time YouTube since 2016.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
so what I'm really curious in is actually just like the economics of opening Pokemon cards on YouTube, right? And so like just with a hypothetical example of someone who wants to get into it right now, could your YouTube channel pay for all the product that you would buy to
No,
open it?
no. So if I did, modern openings, absolutely. Surprisingly, the way YouTube works is a lot of people don't understand this. It's not about your sub count; it's about the viewership. So if you can get to the point where your channel is generating, let's say, at least 2 million views a month. Matter of fact, depending on where you live, even 1 million views a month could actually be considered full time. I live in SoCal, so you need probably at least like 2 million views a month to actually live off of it. But the thing about Pokemon, I didn't create that channel to like make money or to just have like a channel to blow up. I created that channel just because I enjoyed collecting. Because originally I used to upload the Pokemon content on my main channel. I was like I used to do 2 videos a day. But at the time, I was doing like 3 videos a day almost by doing the Pokemon content. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of spamming it up. So I slowly created a second channel to kind of separate it and just have like a place where I could just nerd out with my collectibles, which ended up, originally was just Pokemon, but then became Yu-Gi-Oh! I did a couple sealed games type of videos, but it was basically like a collector space for me. But the thing is I am more into the old stuff, and the old stuff is expensive. A year ago, maybe, because a year ago, you can get like Neo Genesis packs for like $60. You can get the first edition for like $90. You get maybe, let's say, 5, 6, 7 packs. You can probably justify that expense, but nowadays everything is too expensive. It's way too expensive. Now the good news is, going back to what I was saying about the whole viewership thing. For some reason, when it comes down to card opening channels, the ads are way better. So you can, if you are smart about it, you can probably get to the point where even if you're doing a lot of vintage stuff, it does pay for itself or you're profiting. Because the thing is for some reason, maybe it's just because it's Pokemon, it's more marketable. But when YouTube sees the content you're putting out, they're like, you know what? Let's get premium ads over there. So if I was to, for example, let's say if I start uploading daily on that channel, because I don't know if you noticed, but I haven't uploaded in like 3 weeks right now. If I was to upload daily, where I'm maybe doing modern day content, maybe 4 or 5 times a week, and then maybe once per week I do vintage stuff, it could get to the point where it's actually generating more actually, not just breaking even, but more. But the thing is that,
and that's true even if you keep the cards, or you have to flip the cards.
You can keep the cards. What I usually end up doing is you can actually see it in the corner of my office back there, but I have like all my bulk kind of stacked up, and every like month or so I just sell off the bulk to like Toronto or something. Just like I don't want to deal with it. I could probably make more if I sell it, like on eBay or something like that, but I just don't really care. I just don't want to like it go to waste. So what I do is every couple of weeks I'll just send a package over to Toronto and make a little bit back, and then use that money to buy more packs.
I feel like it's actually kind of harder probably to make a living as a Pokemon YouTuber if you care about the cards, because you're like, oh, I like this, I want to keep it. I've noticed this a lot from the good channels, right? It's like you can tell they care about the game, and so a lot of things they're buying or showing you, like they decide to keep for themselves. That it's hard to make up the expenses.
What I usually do is I keep the highest grade, because the thing that really like drew me back into Pokemon was grading cards. And like once you have that card graded and it's just slabbed up in that condition forever, something about that is just like I love it. So what I usually do is when I have like, let's say I get an 8, if I get a 9, or if I get a higher grade, then I either will hang on to the lower grade as long as possible. If someone like happens to pop up an email, like, hey, I really want that, I can't find anywhere to really sell it to me, most of the time, actually, I end up giving it to them, or if depending on if it's something super crazy rare, I might just sell it. I think I maybe sold maybe like 4 cards ever in the past like 2 years, because I don't like really doing it, and I also don't want to like deal with it, just because when it comes out to shipping something super expensive, it's like I'm always like, this is gonna be the time the USPS or FedEx or whatever loses my stuff, and then I got to deal with it. But it's funny because like every time I don't sell a card, I become so much happier, because you watch how it blows up. For example, a year ago. So here's what happened. I used to buy Gold Star Charizards whenever they popped up, when they were near mint or like minty conditions, because I wanted to try to get a 10. And every single time I bought one, it always came back as a 9, because there was always one thing that was like wrong with it. So I ended up having 4. So I'm like, okay, why don't I just like sell these and then buy a 10? So I bought a 10 for a really good price at the time. I remember it was on sale from PWCC. And I ended up, this is the one time I'm like, you know what? That was a lot of money. I need to sell these 10s to justify the expense. And I ended up selling I sold 3 of the 9s, and I gave 1 to Leonhardt's charity last year. And that kind of justified the expense. But now you look at those 9s today, and it's like, why did I do that?
Exactly.
So I think that's what kills me the most. And it's funny, like, look, like right now, the base set is obviously blowing up. And for like the past, I want to say 2 years, I remember someone has been emailing me trying to buy one of my 9 Shadowlesses because I have 2 Shadowless 9s. And then at the time, I remember I was like, I'm not budgeting below 1,500. And he kept pushing for 1,200. I'm like, nah, it's got to be 1,500 because I really don't want to sell number one. So I'm going to sell it basically for the price that for me will move it at the time. And I ended up not selling it. But now you look at the 9 Shadowless and you're like, oh my God, what happened? So I'm happy I didn't do it. So moral of the story is I don't like selling them just because like I feel like I will regret it later, number one. And 2, I don't really need it. But if I ever come across like a collector that just really, really wants it, I'm like, you know what? I can let go of this. You can have it.
Yeah. Yeah, makes total sense. Jake and I were talking about this recently, how unfortunately it probably means that a lot of people in the Pokemon hobby are probably falling prey to results-oriented thinking, meaning like everything went up, right? Like you could be a total idiot and still made a ton of money from Pokemon in the last year, right? Just from buying and not selling. So the real question is going to be what happens in the long term, and also like, are you differentially better than kind of like what the average person would do? I guess in investing terms. So you mentioned PSA. I'm curious also like how you've been able to do PSA return videos when there's this like massive backlog. Do you pay for the express thing? Do you drive down there yourself? Like, how does it all work?
So it used to be great up until this year. So it's funny because I was just talking to my friend yesterday about this. Like I sent him a screenshot of my PSA submissions this year versus last year. This year I've submitted 5 times. And this is actually, I sent them in February and I got them back in like July. So I've done it 5 times. Before that, I would do like 5 submissions a month because like, you know, back before they got super crazy, and of course with the whole situation with the virus and everything, they weren't actually that bad. Like, because I would send something and I would get it back within 20 days. So what I always would do is every time I pile up a bunch of submissions, I'll send them all at once. So for example, let's say I have 5 submissions. Instead of sending them separately, I send them all at once in one package. So when they open it, they log it all. And at some point over the course of the next couple of weeks, you're going to get one back, another back, another back, another back. And that's how I would always like do the videos. I would always plan it out. But like with everything just being backlogged right now and everybody sending it, I just haven't even been doing this because like it's actually, I sent one in August and they got it back to me in 12 days. From the point when they received it, it was back in my hands in 12 days. And that kind of blew my mind. I'm like, oh, okay, they must be back to like, you know, they're caught up. And then I sent them another package like a month later and it's been like a month now. It still hasn't even been logged. So yeah. It was great, but now I'm like, this is like one of my favorite parts about the collectible thing, but it's like it's so hard to like deal with the backlogs. It's like I just send it like maybe once every couple months, and then whenever I get it back is when I get it back.
Right. So you basically like you're still sending things, you're just waiting longer to do it, to consolidate. Are you considering using other services like the new CGC, or because we've been talking about that a bit on the channel, but it's still very new?
I have zero interest in CGC, and the reason why is because, not to knock CGC, I don't really know much about them. I just see them as, are you familiar with Mixer?
No.
So Mixer was the service that was supposed to compete with Twitch and YouTube. And it was owned by Microsoft, and Mixer just actually went down. You can't compete with YouTube and Twitch. When it comes out YouTube and Twitch for streaming, they're always going to be at the top. You'll have all the other services out there pop up, but you're always going to be just like that company that's known as, you know, right below Twitch and YouTube. That's all I view CGC. Again, no disrespect to them or anything. It's just that when it comes down to BGS and PSA, it's like if I want to grade a card with a company that shows me all the subgrades, I'm gonna go with BGS. If I just want the 10, I'm gonna go with PSA because they're both respected. They're both known for what they've done for like the last decades. Like they know what they're doing. I feel like the reason why CGC was even able to pop up. Granted, they might have been around forever, I don't really know, but the reason why CGC has become more popular, I should say, is just because like everything is backlogged and the prices of PSA and BGS has become kind of ridiculous. And it's kind of like they had that room to kind of wiggle through to get out there. But at the end of the day, like I still rather just go with PSA or BGS just because like, I mean, let's be real. If I give you a CGC 10 Charizard versus a PSA, which one would you rather buy?
That's a good point. That makes total sense. So I want to ask you, I guess, more so about this financial world of Pokemon, right? Like, do you see yourself primarily as a collector or an investor? And do you have any kind of opinions or predictions about the future of the market?
I am definitely mostly a collector. Like the way I view it is I, because of my, you know, my focus on YouTube and how much the channel has grown in the last 6 years, I'm in a good financial position, luckily. And the way I always view my Pokemon is it's all collectibles. I just love owning it. I love making videos on it and stuff like that. But let's say a worst case scenario, if YouTube disappears tomorrow and I'm like, What do? I do have like my collection I can fall back on as an investment. So it's kind of like an investment, but it's mostly collectible. It's kind of like a collectible with a safety net, if that makes sense.
It
Where's it
actually
going?
feels to be kind of like a house, right? It's like you're using it, you're enjoying it
Yeah.
while you have it. You could always fall back and sell it if you had like hard times.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of like how I view it. As far as where it's going, I think it's going to get crazier. I mean, the thing is a year ago, if you would have asked, if a year ago, I was telling everybody Pokemon in the next 10 years is going to get crazy. I didn't expect it to be a year later. You know, it's like right now, a lot of people are equating it to, you know, COVID and like the stimulus checks, why everything blown up. I don't think that's what it is. I think that the problem, or not the problem, but the reason why everything has blown up so much is just because a lot of spotlight has fallen back on it. You know, you got people like Gary Vee out there. You got a lot of content creators. You got a lot of big celebrities and influencers all getting back into Pokemon. They're talking about it. And when a lot of spotlight falls back on it, people remember where they came from. People remember what they grew up with, and they want to get back into it. Because the thing is if you're in a position where you have money, what do? You buy cars, you buy houses, yada, yada, yada. But that's not going to fill that void, you know, that you might have. So what else do you fall back on? Your childhood. You fall back into the things that made you happy, and that's what's happening. I feel like a lot of people are coming back to that because they got the financial funds for it, and it's all limited. That's the thing. It's all limited. So with less amounts of this stuff existing and more people coming into the market every single day is why everything's blowing up. I said this actually the other day, and might be a ballsy thing to say, but I think Pokemon is going to surpass Magic in regards of like how expensive and popular it is, just because like Magic has not had like what 10 years over Pokemon. I think it came out like what the early 90s. Is that when it came out?
Yeah, I think it came out 5 or 6 years before in the US.
Yeah, so they like, and we've seen how Magic is right now. It's like I think honestly with the power of Pokemon, it can absolutely surpass Magic at some point, and we're seeing it more and more every single month. I was about to say every single year, but every single month.
Yeah, I think it's totally possible. So what do you think, this is a question I like to ask everyone, what is one Pokemon, it could be a card or a set or a sealed box, whatever, you think is currently overvalued, and what is one that you think is undervalued?
Overvalued. Oh, that's a good question. Undervalued, I think a lot of people are sleeping on, I have one next to me, the Heart Gold Soul Silver set. Just because like I feel like what this set represented was, it was like a modern, I call this like a modern day Neo Genesis, if that makes sense. Because I mean it's focused on second gen. They released it around time the reprints for or the remakes for Gold and Silver. I think a lot of modern stuff is super undervalued because people overlook it. Because when you think Pokemon and vintage, you automatically go to WotC and stuff like that. But like, you know, you got a lot of classic sets that are amazing that people are forgetting exist. Call of Legends. I think Call of Legends is the best modern set, air quotes, from like the last like 15 years.
Is that the one with like the cards in 2 pieces that you can get?
Yes. So in there you go. No. That's in this. Call of Legends was the one that had the shiny, so you can get like shiny Lugia, Palkia, Rayquaza. It has all the shinies in there, and all the cards are super low pop in PSA. I think Call of Legends also was like a one print set. You know how they have like Heart Gold, Soul Silver. You have like Triumphant, Undaunted, Unleashed, yada yada yada. For the Call of Legends era, it was just that. That was just the one box that came out, and I believe every single box comes with like 2 shinies as well. So it's like it's a great value for what it is. I think that's one of the best sets, and over time, I would say it's undervalued, but it's kind of blown up in popularity in the last couple of months. I remember I bought a box for like $1,200, want to say less than a year ago. And literally within like 2 weeks of me buying a box, I watched the price double. And now it's even like quadruple since, because like people are maybe kind of paying attention to it. I feel like the set's also kind of rare too, just because, you know, when you think WotC, you think I'm going to keep the seal, but a lot of people are overlooking stuff I Call Legends, and you should absolutely get into it. But what I think is overvalued, I'm going to just say it. I think Skyridge is honestly a little bit overvalued. Because Skyridge to a lot of people is like the set that you have to own. It's the last WotC box that ever came out. And if you look at it, it's got a lot of great cards, but like, what is like $40,000 for a box? Like, that Charizard is cool, but like, I don't know. I just think Skyridge is like, it doesn't touch Neo Genesis and Neo Destiny in terms of like, you know, how amazing the set was. But at the same time, you do got like what 6 crystal cards in a box. But at the same time,
I happen to agree with you. I do like, I love the Crystal Charizard. I think it's like my holy grail card. But everything else, the whole E-Reader series, I just don't like the E-Reader cards. I don't think they're that great. Yeah. And nobody was playing around that time, so nobody has that like personal connection to it.
I agree. I mean, I'm not knocking Skyridge. I just think it should be up there in terms of like, popularity. But it's like every time I see, when you look at all the boxes, like the early boxes and the prices in regards to like what people consider like holy grails and stuff like that, it's like, really? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like Aquapolis better, but that's because I like Lugia.
Yeah. So I want to transition a bit just before we wrap up and ask you about being a YouTuber. And I guess similar question, what is like the best thing that most people don't think about being a YouTuber, and what is the worst thing you think most people don't think about?
The best thing definitely is got to be the freedom. As long as you can figure out your own schedule and upload times, and it's just great. I don't have to go into an office I do. This is my office, but like I don't have to go to work every single day. When I choose to work in the videos, when I choose to work in the video. If I want to wake up at 7 a.m. and knock out 2 videos and then take the next day off, I can do that. If I want to not do anything and then work on the video very, very late at night for the next day, I can do that as well. That's by far the greatest part. The worst part that a lot of people don't get is it's never ending. So, like, obviously, if you become large on YouTube, like, let's say super popular in terms of like the names that are always around, you can make a lot of money and you can probably really get out there and, really maximize how it works. But the thing is, it's like, if you're like, I consider myself like a mid-level YouTuber, like in the middle, where it's like, I can't skip a day. I have to always upload. I've never missed a day since 2014. And I used to do 2 videos a day at the time as well. So it's like
every day, including weekends?
Every day. I've never missed a day. So what I do now is usually in the middle of the week, I will double up and I'll do like 2 videos and then I'll schedule them out over the course of the next days. And usually by the time Friday hits, I don't have to record anything on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then usually I start again on Monday. That's kind of like my work schedule. But like, it's never ending. Like, unless you become like a Logan Paul or like, the giants in the world, you're doing this all the time. You're doing it until you can't do it anymore. And at that point, you got to figure out, all right, what's next? So that's why it's like always smart to like look into investments and things like that and figure out what you can do in the long term.
Yeah, that makes total sense. But I think even, to someone who's just starting out or new to the game, like seeing you with the number of subscribers you have, you're definitely not mid-level. You're like high level. Like how did you make it that high? What is your secret?
So the thing about me is I did get a little bit lucky. And the luck was when I started doing Dragon Ball content, no one was doing it. It was like literally 3 content creators out there. And I remember at the time when I was doing YouTube, I started my channel in like 2011-ish, around 2011. And I would just upload maybe once every couple of days just for fun. And I remember when I was doing Dragon Ball content, I'm like, yo, there's people actually watching this. You upload a video, you get 100 views, you get 200 views, you get 150 views, like whatever. It's kind of cool that people out there watching. But then like you upload a drama video, and you're like, this got 1,000 views. What happened? And me, when I was a kid, I was into 2 things: Pokemon and Dragon Ball, and Yu-Gi-Oh. But most like these 3 things were like the big part of my childhood. And I never had people in my school that were like super into Dragon Ball like I was. I had maybe like 1 or 2 friends, but that's about it. And whenever I was around them, all we do is just talk about Dragon Ball, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Pokemon, whatever. But I remember when I made my first Dragon Ball video on YouTube and I saw people responding, I'm like, yo, these people are just like me. Like they exist. And I kept doing it. And I realized, okay, so there's a market for Dragon Ball content. And there's not many people doing it. I think at the time, there were possibly like 2 creators. One was just doing gameplays and the other was doing a little bit of everything. And I remember I was like, you know what? I'm going to do literally everything Dragon Ball related and see where it goes. And lucky enough for me, they announced Dragon Ball was coming back. They brought back one of the movies and the second movie, and then they released Dragon Ball Super. And then the other reason why I chose Dragon Ball is because they release a game every single year, so I thought it was kind of like a safe option. Because you don't want to like fall into that niche market where you're playing something like, let's say, not knocking it, let's say Call of Duty. Every single year you get a new Call of Duty game, but you might have that game that's really, really bad, and you have to kind of power through it. I never wanted to fall into that. And the thing about Dragon Ball was they always had a different game every single year, which was like fun. But yeah, like me falling into Dragon Ball, it was just, there was a market for it and there was not that many people doing it. Obviously now, if you were to start a Dragon Ball channel, you got thousands of creators. And same thing with Pokemon. It's like, you got thousands of creators, and then you got to figure out how do I compete with the ones who are, doing like daily vintage openings or the ones who are doing 1,000 card openings. Like, what do? You got to get more creative and standing out. So that's why I always recommend when people get into YouTube, find out one thing that's just there, but there's no one really behind pushing it. And if you can be there early on, when it blows up, you'll be at the forefront of it. And that's kind of like the advice I always give to people.
Yeah. And if I'm also hearing you, you're right. It's also about that personal connection you had to this thing that like, you didn't even know that people were interested in. And for Jake and I, was very similar. It's like the financial aspect of Pokemon, right? Not necessarily try to make money off of it, like be a big time flipper, but just understanding like Pokemon as an economic thing.
Yep.
It turns out there's a niche for that, and like we
Mhm.
love it and people like it. And so I guess for someone new starting out, it's about, you know, what are you, it sounds cheesy, right? But the thing you're passionate about, the thing you really think about and spend all your
Mhm.
time thinking about, that's kind of thing other people will find interesting if you
Yep.
do.
I always say get into content creation or the thing you love, because the last thing you want to do, and I've seen this a lot where people will do like one kind of video and it blows up and then they get stuck in it and then they hate doing it. And I'm like, 2 years later, you're still doing the same videos, but they hate it. I'm like, how are you
I
doing
feel
this?
bad for the people still
Yeah.
making Pokemon Go videos every day. They're trapped.
Hey, I mean, if they enjoy it, sure, because I still play Pokemon Go daily. You know, I'm glad I didn't fall into it because I can't see myself doing just one kind of content every single day. Because even on my main channel, like I don't do just one Dragon Ball game. Because like usually what happens in the Dragon Ball community, whatever game blows up, that's all people are doing for that time period. I have always done like several. You know, I'll do all the Dragon Ball games that are out right now on it, and then when another one comes out, I add into the mix, and then maybe I'll drop an older one. I'm always like kind of switching it up. But if you're only doing just one game or one kind of content, like years down the line, it's like, are you okay mentally? Like, can you keep doing? Can you keep going with that? But hey, if you like it, you know, if it works out for you, then sure. Because you know there are people out there who can just play that one game and do that one kind of content over and over again without getting tired of it.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Well, that's it for my questions. Are there any parting thoughts?
Any parting thoughts? I'm gonna ask you a question actually.
Go for it.
Where do you think modern Pokemon is going to go over the course of the next like 5 years? When I say modern, I'm talking about, let's say from the Diamond and Pearl era beyond.
Yeah, Jake is a real expert on it, but I guess my opinion is just there's too many unknowns to feel like it's financially safe as any kind of investing vehicle, because just the print runs could be so massive. We don't really know, right? And obviously, like that era, Diamond Pearl, X, you know, everything up to X and Y was much lower printed than like X and Y and forward. But we just have no clue. You know, we have a number of PSA cards, but like people could be sitting on like pallets and pallets of this stuff. They probably are, right? People could be sitting on binders of ungraded cards. And so to say, I'm going to get the valuable stuff graded because it's scarce, it's probably not true. Versus you say, I'm going to get the old stuff graded because it's scarce, to be reasonably certain that that's the case. And so I see there's the long-term potential, like there's anything in 20 years, our kids, you know, like the people who are kids today are going to be the ones who in 20 years, the Shining Legends Charizard, the Burning Shadows Charizard, that's going to be their holy grail. That could happen. But I think 99% of all of it, you know, eventually is just not going to be considered nearly as nostalgic as the old stuff, unfortunately. Because I love it. Like I think the new cards are great, especially full art Rainbow Rares. Like that stuff is great, but we've yet to see, and so it's too risky.
I think my big problem with like the modern stuff, like the super modern stuff, is there's too much in it. Because the thing is like, let's say you buy a WotC box, you crack it open, you know you're going to get 12 hollows. And all those hollows will be great. But nowadays it's like, I see people sitting on stuff like Burning Shadows boxes, and it's like, okay, yeah, well, that's cool and all, but like most of the time you open a Burning Shadows box, you're going to get that one Rainbow Rare you don't care about. And really the reason why you want Burning Shadows is for a Charizard. So it's like a lot of people are super, I don't want to say hyping up and overvaluing, but hyping up overvaluing the newer stuff and not really thinking about the fact what makes the older boxes so special is because, like I said, you open a Call of Legends box, you know you're going to get 2 shinies out of it. You're also going to get 10 hollows out of it, something like that. You know, you open a Heart Gold Soul Silver box, you know you might get that Legend card. You might get 2. I think you get 2 actually, and you also get the Prime cards. But again, the newer stuff is it's just too much. You know, I was talking to my friend the other day about Champion's Path because like Hidden Fates was rough because there were so many secret rares inside it. Like the one that you really cared about was mostly the Charizard, and then maybe the other favorite Pokemon you might have. Like for me, was Mewtwo.
But the subset was bigger than the set itself, and you only get one subset card per pack, so it's or less, right? So it's like, it's too much. It gets to the point where it's too difficult. I know Magic the Gathering, which I also play, is having a somewhat problem now. It's just proliferation of product, and the rare stuff is getting harder and harder to find, and like also too many versions of the same card. So in the past, if you're like, I want to collect one of every Mewtwo, that's like challenging but feasible. Now it's just like, who even knows how many variations of Mewtwo DX there are, right? It's like so many. Yep. Well, I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for taking the time, Rhymestyle, and best of luck with your channel and everything else.
Hey, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Take care.